Oh, hey y'all, hopefully you can hear us. I think we got the audio issues fixed from last week. Maybe it sounded good last week. I don't know how it sounds this week. No, we're in the house, man. We're in the house. We got the TPO boys here. They brought this beautiful, magnificent stud of a buck in here.
Oh yeah.
170s class, which you guys know that's big. That's what they're supposed to look like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right there is what they're supposed to look like.
He's jaw dropper for sure. Isn't
Oh
he?
yeah. He wouldn't have made it past me.
Yeah.
Well, he might have.
He almost
I'm
made
not
it
the
past
best
me.
shot in the world, but he almost made it past
He
me.
almost made it past me.
Oh, awesome.
Man.
So this week we've got the boys from TPO up here. We're going to be pretty much talking strategy, what it takes to kill some of these big bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of our downfalls, when it comes to getting those grinds, man. You get in those grinds and you almost get lost in it for a minute, and you get upset and you feel like, man, I don't know, I ain't got the right buck coming in, I'm just all these things that kind of come to a culmination of getting a buck to this caliber, you know what I mean, and what it takes. With you guys, I'll let you guys take it off, and if you want to talk about him first, we can, or if you want to talk about what your guys' strategies are for this year, what you guys feel like doing this year, maybe a little bit about your farms you're going to be hunting and stuff. The floor is yours, y'all. If you want this vision, you just got to let me know.
Okay, I'll probably hit the whiteboard here in a minute.
Okay.
But like you said, talking strategy and stuff, and like how people do certain different types of things. When I killed this deer, so many things went completely wrong. Like, my wind was bad. A doe spotted me. She's stomping at 20 yards. I mean, so much different stuff that would go wrong any other day. But it's the rut.
Yeah.
The rut is, I think, a completely different animal.
I'm like the only guy that will probably ever say this since you'll ever hear it. Not huge on the rut, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like hunting it. I think it's exciting. I think it comes with challenges that are kind of unneeded. When you've got a giant like something like this, and that's if you can get him patterned. I mean, I started out saying that. If you got him patterned, you know what I mean, and it's a buck that you kind of got early season pictures of, and it's something you can get on, you kind of got that early season pattern. I think it's easier to kill early season than he is during the rut. During the rut, he could be 10 miles away from where you had him. You know what I mean? He could be traveling, chasing doe forever.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I like that summer buck going into early fall pattern. It's just something I kind of hunt religiously. But like you said with this guy, with the rut, it's a whole nother animal.
So yeah, back in like 2018, we had like a little 8-pointer, little just like a perfect, like a diamond could sit right in it. And my dad had him in bow range 9 or 8 times. Like, I'm just not going to shoot that deer. He's just not big enough yet. And he was only probably, I want to say, I really don't know how old he is. I would think 5.5, I would have to say.
That would be mine.
Yeah.
I mean, judging by his forehead and everything, how his head sits.
Yeah. So in
Thicker.
in 2019, we had trail cam pictures of him out the wazoo in 2018. 2019, we got 2, and that was the one I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
And just like somebody put him there, like, I'm gonna place this deer right here. You're never gonna see him again, but I'm gonna put him right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I named him Statue, because it just looked like he was just right there. And
It was a beautiful picture.
yeah, it really is. And I was hunting that day so I guess I can kind of use this as can I erase this?
Yeah, you can erase whatever you want. Let me get to this other vision here and see if I can, because sometimes I got to redo it.
Okay. I'll start drawing on it.
Heck, I don't even know if I got it plugged in. I do, but it's not. Let me, I'll figure it out real quick. So I've been using this OBS. I don't know if you guys have Windows 10 or whatever you guys use for any of your editing and whatnot. Stick with Windows 10, dude. I'm telling you right now. I've had more problems with Windows 11 than I have of any other. It's going to look at me real quick, and then it's going to go back to y'all. There we go. But it keeps updating and editing.
So
Okay,
basically
cool.
the gist of it is, camera's here, deer's here, there's a bunch of does, and this is the tree line. I'm hunting on the opposite side of the tree line.
So is this the end of the field, like the end of a bowl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's here, and he goes just like that, and I'm over here. I have does come, probably like 5 or 6 does. Just walk the trail just like I knew they would. They do it. I've hunted that stand for years. I know how to do it.
Yeah.
Camera's right here. I mean, this is probably a, I don't know, 200 yard radius.
Okay.
So I can't see through the tree line.
Okay.
And the does come through, he stands here. So then he never shows. He just goes off. I mean, like, that never happens. Those deer always
He never
go
followed
through.
them does.
He never followed them does. He didn't know he was there because after I got done hunting, I got down.
Which way was the wind blowing by chance? Just curious. You said wind was wrong anyway. So.
Well, this was the year before.
Oh, okay.
This is the year before.
Okay.
And so, yeah, he never shows. I get out of stand, go check the camera. What the heck?
Is he? He's there.
Yeah, so, but that's kind of how we lead into it, and that was the last time we'd ever seen him. So fast forward to 2020, I'm hunting another buck, kind of like yours you got in there. It's got stickers everywhere down here. So I'm hunting him hard. I mean, like, I just went to college and stuff, and I was like hating it. So
Yeah.
like, leaving and go hunting and stuff and doing stuff like that, and
That tree therapy, we talk about it.
yeah,
That is real, man. It is real.
So
Very
it comes. It's the day before rifle season, and it's kind of funny actually. I go into Orslins and they're having a sale on tree stands, right? And I'm like, huh, screw it. Bought this stand. My dad's like, you know what? We haven't been seeing deer. He's like, let's just go hang it. Okay. Day before rifle. It's cold out. We go hang it, and we hang it in this spot in the back of our farm. We call it's the north side, which is the back for us, and it's down in this little bottom. It's right next to the hayfield. There's a fence, and it's just thick, rough, nasty down there. And we're having to put the stand up, and I walk over to something. My dad pulls me back by my shirt. There's like an 18-foot well by this tree that we just found. That about literally went into.
it.
Yeah, and he's like,
that would not feel good.
He's like, what? We've been down there for 8 years. You know how many
Never
times
seen
I
it.
could have walked into that thing and just fallen 18 foot in the ground?
And that'd be bad. Boy, that'd be bad by yourself too. You know what I mean? Falling out.
So we put the stand right next to it, of course.
Yeah, of course. You got to. Is it the well set?
Yeah.
It's got to be called a well
Yeah,
set.
it's called
Okay.
it's called the well set. 100%. That's exactly what it's called.
Awesome.
So we hang it, and then I hunt that evening. I actually missed a deer. My dad ended up shooting a couple days later. So I don't know if you remember opening day of rifle of 2020, but it was disgusting outside.
It was raining.
It was
Yep.
awful. It was horrible weather. Bringing ponchos to the deer stand, freezing.
Yep.
So I ended up hunting a different stand. My uncle goes to the well stand.
Gotcha.
And I had another deer, I nicknamed Boomer. I don't know why, I just want to call him. He's a big white 8-pointer. He comes out, perfect. Well, the thing is, it's the first time ever I'm trying to self-film while rifle hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, 2020 isn't that far ago, but we were just filming with my iPhone. We didn't have nothing. Right. We were just getting into it, and I'm fiddling with that and dropping crap on the ground. He's like that, so I forced a shot and just missed. So I get out of the stand, I call my dad, and cussing like a sailor because I'm mad. I don't know what's going on. I'm about to tear up because I just tried so hard all year to get a buck on camera, and it's like, it just didn't happen. So, and I was like, all right, let's go to the truck. We got sandwiches up there, let's eat. So that's what we do. And my uncle comes up out of the well stand. He told me, he's like, you need to go down there and sit in the stand I was in. I said, there's a big buck back in that draw because he's watching a 130-inch deer just run in out of it and just take a hard run right back out.
Keep right back out.
He's like, you need to go down there and sit. He's like, I'm telling you, that's where you need to go sit. I'm like, okay, you do it. So it's about.
I mean, you run 130 inches off. That's
that's
gotta be a good one.
Yeah, and so I get down there. It's like 1 o'clock. And this is where it gets real fun. So I climb up into the stand. I get settled. I no longer sit in the tree and look behind me. There's deer running everywhere. I'm like, Jesus, he is right. And I watch a little basket rack go in there and
Right back in.
there's something over there. Well, it goes about 15 minutes go by, and I've got to pee really bad. So, of course, I stand up, start taking a leak, and then I look over, and a doe hops fence at about 20 yards, and I'm peeing.
You're peeing.
So, I get that controlled, and then I kind of get the gun, and then she's like, look, she's staring right at me.
Oh,
she's just stomping, blowing.
Nanny, big nanny?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the word Edwin was.
And she's just, having her way with me basically at this point. And she just completely stops and just turns her head. I'm like, what the heck is she looking at? So I kind of just turn my head. I don't see anything. I'm like, oh. And about 30 seconds go by and I see something. I'm like, oh, there is something over there. And I was just like,
oh, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then he hops the fence, boom, 20 yards right there. And I'm just like,
That's a bow. That's a bow. Yeah, that's a bow.
It's
That's a
even
bow
hard to
hunter's
explain
dream.
now.
Yeah.
So like, well, I'm hunting with a rifle.
Well,
too.
but you're hunting with a rifle. But I'm saying that's a
Hunting
bow
with
hunter's dream, right?
Hunting with
there.
the
20 yards.
7 mag at the time,
Oh,
and I shot right over top of him at 20 yards. Then he takes a couple steps, shoot him, drop him, over. Right? I'm like
losing it at that point.
I'm
You're like,
losing it,
okay,
yeah.
I got it.
I look down, I chamber another around his case. I get up, he's gone. And then he's like went 10 yards behind this tree, and I shoot him again. He drops again. He gets back up. I shoot him again, and I think I missed again. And then I call my dad, and I'm freaking out because he's like, what the heck's going on? And blah blah blah. And I'm like, he's just laying there looking at me. He's like, I don't know what to do. And like he's 40 yards from the deer stand, laying in the ground, just looking at me, and I have all these thoughts going through my mind. I don't want this deer to get away, and so he hangs up the phone. He calls another guy that we leased property with. He's hunting with his daughter. Well, they were going to be walking through the field. So basically,
Let me go back to you real quick. There you go.
So I'm going to draw a fence. This is a fence line. I'm hunting over here, and there's like a path, and this is the field, right? The X is the field. So I'm down here.
This is just like a logging road there?
Yeah, it's
something
like
like
this old hay field. And then over here is kind of where Dad's at. It leads off to the cedar thicket right there.
Yep.
So I'm down here. The guy that we leased the farm with, BG, he comes, walks here with his daughter. They stay about right here. So I'm right here. This deer is coming up through this wood line right here. And he's like laying right here. So he calls him, tells him, do not move, stay right there. Because if he gets in that field, he's
toast.
So Dad's like, get down, go up on him, and see how close you get without trying to bump him and get another shot. So I climbed down.
Could you not get a shot at him up in the tree?
It was so thick where he was laying. I was like, I didn't want to try to force anything because it's the biggest deer I've ever seen. I didn't want to try to push him out because I knew he was hit. I knew he was hurting because you could see him go in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So when I watched him drop his head, I climbed down and by note, okay, he's still down. I get up on him, shoot him. He gets up, runs a little more, and goes right back down. Then I go, and he's gonna go, click. I'm like, oh. Out of ammo, completely out of ammo.
Oh,
no more bullets, none. So called Dad. He was like, my dad. I don't remember doing this, but I guess I yelled, "I'm out of shells!" And everybody heard it that was hunting out there. I don't remember doing it, but Dad said he remembers me saying it.
Isn't that funny what you do in a moment though? When you're just sitting there, you're like all hyped up, adrenaline going crazy.
I'm 20 yards from this deer, 15 yards from this deer, just watching him raise his head up back and forth. So I called Dad again. I'm like telling him. So he's also hunting with a 7 mag. So he gets down.
That's lucky.
Yeah, right. So he gets down and makes this big circle, crosses the creek, crosses back the creek, like all the way around.
All the way around you know.
And he gets up behind me, and I see him walking up through. He's like, where is he? Because my dad gets, like, I'm here. He gets about, like, kind of over to the left of me a little bit. He's like, do you see him? I'm like, yeah, right there. He's like, well, I don't see him. My dad kind of sees a little of his antler, and he looks at me and goes, what do you mean giant? Like, that's what he says. And he goes, my dad goes,
I know what you mean about giant.
So Dad's like, I'm going to kill him right here. I'm on him. I'm like, shoot him. Get his deer done. He shoots, misses. And I go take the gun, go from basically me to you and finish him off.
Oh my goodness.
And so, you know, we're hugging, crying together. Best, you know, I've always wanted to shoot a deer by myself because every year I've
shot that's the first one by yourself.
Well, kinda, because it's the first deer I ever shot by myself. Because every time I'd ever went hunting, it's always been with my dad. And a lot of people, I didn't realize how special that was after like Hunter. He didn't get to hunt with his dad very much growing up and stuff like that. And you know, I was like, man, I really just want to kill a deer by myself. But it made it so much more special that he was there in the long run. But yeah, we're just freaking out, and it was a blast. And, you know, and what the crazy part is I didn't realize, but I'd blown both of his front shoulders off.
Really? That's why he was just.
That's why he couldn't move.
Yeah,
and my dad gets up to me, he's like, "What the heck, dude?" And I'm like,
"How did he not die from that?"
I don't. He wouldn't. So
I've seen some big bucks in that. Like, I don't know if it's an age thing. I really don't. Like, I'm no biologist by any means, but I've seen some really, really big, big bodied, heavy older bucks just be able to take rounds like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
That buck that's in there on the wall, the one that's hanging up on the wall by the door, he was a young buck. I shot him 5 times. 5 times. 3 of them were in the lungs.
Really?
Last one was in the heart and one was in the neck. So the first one was a neck, dropped it. You know, he got up again, so I shot him again. And he got back up, and I shot him again. Got back up, I shot him again. And then I got down there, me and my uncle did, and got down there, and then I had to shoot him at like 20 yards.
Yeah.
Right. And then when we field dressed him, there was 3 that had double on him. He wasn't none left at him. I mean, he had holes. He was jello on the inside. I could not believe that deer was still just trying to get it. It was just incredible how tough some of them made can be, man.
I had holes all the way up through his neck, like there's all over. And this is
is that what you said?
This is the original cape to the deer.
Really?
Todd Reiner, who did the taxidermist on it, did an incredible job. Like, that deer was destroyed. And the thing is, not a single one of my shots passed through this deer besides the ones in the shoulder.
Really?
So that year, ammo was hard to come by. So my dad was having shoulder issues, and I had to sight all the guns in that year. So I sighted them in with Winchesters, 150 grain 7 mag rounds, right? Well, it took me about a whole box to get them sighted in. I was having so much trouble with my gun, give or take.
Really?
And Dad's gun, a couple shots done. It's always on. He has a Browning 7 mags. He's going to be 28 years old, he said, this year.
Browning.
Yeah. Mine was a Remington, right? So I'm like, well, Dad, when you got another box in the safe? He's like, no, you're going to go buy some. Can't find Winchesters. Ended up buying. It was federal.
They really were hard to find.
It was federal, like 140 grain. So the grain went down, and my dad's like, we're like,
odd.
He's like, that should be. He said that should be fine. I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't get a single pass through with them, and I shot the deer 12 times. So
my goodness, not one single pass.
Except for the ones in the shoulder, because it's bone.
And blood through it, yeah.
And then he had the same issue a couple days later. He's using the same. He had to shoot his deer twice, but first shot was perfect, right there, right where you want it, and deer just stood there at it.
I'm a firm believer, man. Like there's a lot of rounds out there, and you know, use what you want, but dude, it's hard to beat those core locks. Like there's something about that round since I was a kid. Yeah, I mean it's what we use. But my dad always shot. I shot a 30-30 growing up for the most part. My dad shot 30-06, and I really got into. We can dive into guns here if we go down this rabbit hole. We're gonna go down the rabbit hole again. So like the perfect round to me when it comes to deer hunting, and it's just something that I love to use, is 270. 270 for me is tried and true. I haven't had a buck ever get away on 270, like ever. Not even a doe. I don't think I've had any deer ever get away on a 270. Not to bash any other round. 7 mag, great gun. Well, a lot of reach, a lot of knockdown power.
I'm a firm believer in a 30-30 too.
30-30 is if you're hunting under 100 yards and you're not using a 30-30, you're screwing up. Yeah. You really are. Yeah. Like best brush gun there ever is. I think probably to ever be.
Dad killed a great buck last year with our 30-30.
Yep.
He started hunting with
Marlon Leveler, actually, man. That's the creme right there. I love them.
Yeah, because he had rotator cuff surgery, and that 7 mags destroying.
Oh yeah.
So I was hunting with 30-30, and you know, it's always never misses.
Tried and true. Yeah. Like 30-30 is one of the best guns I think. Period for deer hunting. That's what my girls. Lily shoots a modified 223 that I have for her. She's a killer, man. That kid is a straight deer killing fool. Love it. My oldest, she's not big at guns. She'll shoot them. She'll shoot guns, but she's more of a bow person, which
that's cool.
I respect it. You know what I mean? Because there's something about it's one thing to kill deer, but when you get a kid interested, that's usually what they want to use as a gun because it's just easier. Not her. She likes that challenge.
She likes more bow hunting too. You can hunt more.
Yes.
A lot of people don't know that. Like, what's bow season?
Let's talk about that for a minute though. How many people do you know that literally don't bow hunt? Like I know quite a few.
Oh, I know a lot of people that are like,
why would you bow hunt? Yeah,
love deer hunting. Like, well, why would you go out and bow hunt? Like, I don't know. I can hunt September and October and January.
And hunting September. If you haven't hunted buck nest in September, have you ever done that? Like gilly? But I keep telling people on the show it's going to get busy for me this year. But I'm telling you, if you ain't gilly hunted,
that's where it's at.
Buck bedding, is.
Get out there now and start really scouting around and figure out where they're going to be early season. You can go in there and
you find a good bean field with a nasty draw, but you're going to see deer at such a close proximity that you won't even find you a good creek. That's typically what I like to do is find me a good creek and some nasty crap next to a bean field or a bottom. somewhere where it's cooler, you know what I mean, for them bucks to be in. Because if you know how driving around a country road, you go down and hit those little bottoms and it's cold. Now that's where them big bucks are going to be.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're there. And that's why you see them a lot of early season. You see them in them bean fields and bottom fields and river bottoms. And then as the season goes on, you know, they kind of move up out of there. I had a doe, which was one of the funnest things I've ever done. And I've said it multiple times on the show, but long story short, I had a doe at, I'm not kidding, less than 5 yards. And I just had her sitting in a bee. And I'm telling you, dude, I'd never shook like that. I get a good amount of adrenaline, but it doesn't really hit me until like after the shot. It's just kind of who I am. After, if I hear that schwack and that pop, as soon as that hits, I'm a mess. Yeah, I'm a mess. But prior, I'm usually pretty steady.
I'm the complete opposite.
You're a mess before.
Here come in, I'm just like. But as soon as if it's a rifle or pull my bow back, I just.
Yeah.
And then miss, you normally.
And then he said did miss.
Been there.
Yeah.
We all, dude. Look at me last year, man. That deer every bit of it. I bet you that deer was every bit 160.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. I mean, he wasn't something, like most people would be like, holy crap, 20-inch inside deer. That's huge, which it is. Don't get me wrong. I'm not even gonna sit there and act like that's not, because that is big. But I had that. I had that moment, and it was like. That was one of the first ones that made me nervous before the shot. Like, and I normally don't. I even had that 100. I showed you a picture of that one 170, 180 inch deer. Dude, I didn't even get nervous with him. But that buck, I was just so close. I was 30 yards on the ground. I was literally sitting under a trail camera. I went to check a trail camera because I've watched 2 bucks cross in this spot. I'm like, man, you know what? I'm gonna go sit that last 15, 20 minutes. I'm gonna get out of the stand. Yes, no to get out of that stand. Do not stay stand committed. Do not be pop committed when it comes to those stands. If you see something and it's 1, 2, get out. Get out of the stand, go get close, set something up, disguise yourself in that area, get out and move to where they're moving. That's what I did. That buck, I watched this, I wasn't there, I got the SIM card out. Or not SIM card, but the SD card out. And I went to plug it in, I look up, and I was like, oh crap, little buck coming across there, just like the other 2 bucks did. And I was like, man, that'd be awesome if a big one did. And I'm not kidding you. As soon as I said that, he come up over that hill, and I was like, oh crap! Yeah, I was like, oh crap, he's here, And so I really didn't have a ton of time, and I had the kid's crossbow. I didn't have my bow. Only deer I didn't recover this year was from a crossbow.
Really?
Only one. And I'm not saying the crossbow is bad, because it annihilated every other deer that we shot. It was 100% me, but I always kind of thought it was funny. Like, I can kill him at 40 yards with a regular bow, but a crossbow, come on, Keith, like, get it together.
2020 was one of my worst seasons bow hunting too.
It was a bad season. Personally, I think.
I got sick.
It was pretty good.
It was good for him. Yeah. I mean, I shot a gooder. You seen the 2020 I had there. He was a good buck. Just wasn't the one I wanted to shoot.
Yeah.
He would have been unreal.
I missed a lot of deer in 2020. I think in 1 week, I missed 3. Just right underneath them, right over the top, just barely missing. And then,
what do you think your issue was? Just like, do you think it was all self-inflicted, or just getting excited for the shot, or you talking about bow, right? Or
about archery.
I mean, and dude, archery you never stop learning. I really don't think you do. I mean, there's guys that are tried and true, they kill them every time, and good for them. They probably put a lot more time than I do in it, but I think that's something I need to focus on. Like, seriously, it's just bow range. As soon as August hits, just shoot like every day, at least 10 to 20 times a day.
And I started building my arrows too, because the very first deer I ever shot with my bow, it was with a rage, and it hit that shoulder, went in that far.
Rage. I hate rage.
So,
that's a bummer. Just a mechanical. Orange rage head mechanical.
Yeah.
See, I got guys that absolutely will not shoot anything other than that.
And I don't know why you would shoot that. I mean, I've had the same problem.
Right here, guys. This will fix it. This isn't a PR thing because these guys don't sponsor me, but those best in the biz. Like, I've heard that from so many. Yeah. I personally have never used the Exodus until this year. I shot one last year. I can't remember where I was at. I was at some show, I believe, but they were letting you shoot it into a block. And dude, that thing was sinking like every bit of 6 to 12 inches deeper than any other broadhead that was out there. And I shot probably 15 of the broadheads into that same block.
Wow.
That thing just
Really?
out of this world. Like
Wow.
I could not believe it. Stephen Fisher, good buddy of mine, kind of got me turned on a little bit when we started talking about him the first time we met. And then I kind of started, I'm gonna do my research because I'm a research guy when it comes to what equipment I'm putting out. Everybody, like I'm talking all the bigs were talking about this dang broadhead. And so I decided this year I'm gonna give it a go. And I've got pictures from some of the stuff I have to show you. Buddies sending me. I mean, just nothing went more than 40 to 60 yards every time.
Yeah.
And so that's me, and the broadheads weren't damaged. So
That's even better.
that's even better.
Yeah,
you know
that's
what I
a
mean? When you
win-win.
have that's double win. Yes, win-win.
Wow.
But anyway, sorry, I wasn't trying to interrupt you there. Go ahead. You were saying you were like, you switch. Did you switch from the Rage then?
Yes, I switched everything up after that year. It just,
What are you shooting now?
well, I build all my arrows. I buy the bear shafts, and then I just build everything.
Fletchings, all
Yeah.
of it. That's sweet.
Yeah, and
My buddy Hunter Higgins does really good wraps. So if you ever want some cool wraps with like stuff on the side of them, like TPO or
that'd be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
he does wraps and he'd send them out to you. He's a good kid. He's a younger kid. He's like 15 or 16.
That's cool.
But he's a hell of a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, I was like, I'm done trying to shoot deer back and go through all that. So now I have a 570 grain arrow,
That'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
300 grains just in the front.
Oh man. So did you buy something with inserts then?
I bought Black Eagle 100 grain brass inserts, and I shoot the Carnivore 300.
Gotcha.
And then
Packing a punch.
Yeah.
Now-
No, I mean that's what you need.
Oh yeah.
then I have a 200 grain Grizzly Stick Masai single bevel.
Okay, so let's get on these grizzly sticks. This is something that keeps coming across. So as far as fixed blade, and I've heard a lot of people say it, the grizzly sticks are the truth. Now everybody talks about the iron will, which obviously the THP boys pretty much got the iron will on the map.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I have seen it, and it does great. But everybody's talking about them grizzly sticks. Them things are. Have you got to shoot an animal with it yet, or
Yep.
is it just? I've heard it's bloodbath.
It is.
Yeah, it's.
I've heard it's just like,
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
if you hit
Yeah.
where you need, and I've heard it go, like they say, it goes through the scapulas and everything,
Yeah.
it's mean.
It,
Did it bend or anything? Did it chip? Nothing? Just
Nope.
solid all the way through. Now, do you sharpen and everything too yourself? See, that's the key with what you're doing, is really that sharpening. Like, do you have what's your method? Just curious.
I've yet to get an actual sharpener. I want to get one of those KME thing. It's got like that little rod in it. I can't think of what it's
Mhm,
called.
mhm.
Yeah.
And just run it down there, because then Masai's have that weird angle right there on the tip. So I think that would really help with
Oh, yeah.
sharpening.
Oh my goodness, I sneezed there. So Dalton shoots in grizzly sticks.
Yep.
We were talking
I'm
about
pretty
Dalton.
sure he
He shoots in grizzly sticks and he loves them. I mean,
Oh,
he
yeah.
said that they're really the truth. And another buddy of mine, he shoots them from up in Iowa, and he's had good use out of them for the last couple of years. So like, that's something I may, as we were talking about buck bed hunting, where you're in a lot of nasty crap when you're buck bed hunting for the most part. It's not clear. So when you have an arrow like what you got, an arrow set up, that's what you need in those areas.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times you'd be shooting through, Kentucky bluegrass or any of them real, what I can't think of. the
Yeah,
other
some
one.
kind of crap
switchgrass
thing.
or just something just nasty, thick, tall, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And them heavy arrow setups, what I love about them, I think the most is the deviation, man. They don't. You hit something and it's not gonna. It doesn't deviate it as fast. They did that last year? It's either last year or the year before on the hunting public. He shot a buck and you watched it hit. You watched it hit that a little bitty branch, but it didn't deviate it very very far. Still lethal kill. Which, if you're starting to bow hunt, I think honestly that might be something that beginners should really kind of dive into. Like don't go towards just a regular broadhead or something. Go towards something you can work on that you can
Right.
prime.
Yeah. Oh, see,
One, it builds you.
Yeah.
I think.
So many people
Right.
want to go like fast.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm not really a firm believer in that though, because I feel
it's
like
got to hit.
Yeah, it's got to hit. It's got to pack a punch. It's almost kind of like the bow version of a 30-30 in a way.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100%, 100%.
Because we're trying to have the animal, like you're trying to shoot the deer and it not run 300 yards.
Yeah, yep.
It's like that's not what we want. I want it to go 20 yards. I mean, but that's like
Right.
for us. That's the best thing that we've found in research is that putting all that right there.
So
in
you're
front
saying
of the
front
arrow.
end weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
You think your front end weight is the most, like as far as Well, that kind of rounds up my question. What's your most important tactic in the when you go out to the woods? Most people say wind. Duh. I think it's quit saying wind, guys. All right, we get it. We all know we hunt the wind. Like if you're not hunting the wind, you're screwed up. But I think arrow setups, especially for bow hunting, that's probably the most important thing. Period.
Yeah.
It's what does the damage. You know what I mean? And it's comfortability. Shooting something that heavy does take a little bit of getting used to, but I think it makes you a better archer. In the long run. I do. I think it makes you a hell of a
He turned me to it this past year, and like I'm still shooting my setup now, but we've tried to mimic that the best way we could, and I'm shooting. I'm just like, I mean, it's a whole different. I mean, even watching the arrow fly, you just.
Yep. And it hits hard.
Oh yeah,
it's quieter too.
Yeah.
You think it's quieter?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when the arrow's flying through the air, if you like put somebody on like halfway down range, like where we shoot, there's a house there, so people stand like on the corner of the house, out of the way. That way they,
Yeah.
safety.
Have you filmed it? Just curious. Maybe
We
you guys
have
should
not.
do that. Maybe you guys should do that for real. That'd be a cool video. I would watch that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actually night and day compared to somebody that shoots like a 29-inch draw, light arrow. There's like, you can hear them, the fletchings buzzing when they go by. And where mine, it's just like,
Yeah. Have you guys heard of those zingers? Have you seen those yet?
Heard of the name?
yeah,
They're little bitty, like fletchings. I mean, they ain't but that big around and that long. I mean, there's nothing to it. It's new. It's something new. It's first year I've seen it was this year. I'm kind of curious to what they would do. I mean, I've heard they make it. You were talking about quieter. That's what kind of sparked my thought with that. Was I heard it's quieter. I mean, how we switched from fletchings that used to be 5.5 inches long down to
2 inch.
2 inch and 1.5
smaller?
inch, and why not try it?
Yeah.
These guys created it. I'll have to show you guys when we're done, but I'm kind of curious to maybe shoot a few of them. That's kind of, I mean, like you can go so far with, in my opinion, a broadhead. But that's something we really don't talk a lot about is fletchings.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the most important parts of the arrow itself is that fletching. And how durable it is. Pass through, smaller footprint. It's not dragging as hard. I've heard all kinds of different things when it comes to the fletching issue. Me personally, everything that I've shot, I've been kind of blessed in that sense. Everything's went through except for one doe. I didn't get a full pass through one time, but everything else has always been a full pass through. So I've been kind of lucky with those broadside shots.
Real lucky.
Oh, dude, it's 100% luck, and I'd rather be lucky than good any day.
Yeah,
For sure.
100%.
For sure. I mean, and you talk about that though. Like, if you're going to shoot the heavier grain arrow, is that going to change your hunting strategy this year? It's like places you're going to hunt. Because I feel like if you're in a heavier setup, you're opt to have more options. You're not necessarily stuck to a stand. You know what I mean?
Right.
You can get down in the stuff and shoot through a lot. Have you shot through stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Like just practice wise?
Yep.
That's awesome. So what do you guys use for like when you're shooting with your broadhead? You shoot your actual broadhead too into anything?
Yeah, I'll shoot it in just a foam target and then I'll sharpen it up.
Gotcha.
I run it over a leather strop.
Yep.
Okay, see, that's what I was going to ask. A lot of guys they go from stone to leather to cardboard, and just like a cereal box.
Yeah,
I've heard
the
get a cereal
box,
box is just like if you want that extra that gets a little bitty microburrs and stuff off there. I don't know. Do you guys watch Ranch Fair at all?
Yep.
Yep.
Free leather
That's
Ranch
where I
Fair.
learned everything.
Dude,
That's where we got it from everything.
he's a beast, dude. Like a lot of people clown on that guy, and I hate it because like, dude knows his stuff.
Yeah,
and
he
he's
knows
not
what
just bringing you a broadhead.
Yeah.
Or an arrow setup. Like he talks to rocket engineers. He talks to people that deal with flight all the time about how he can improve a broadhead. And I think that's awesome. Like if you're not looking outside the realm of what's already there, come on, man. You're not doing anything anybody else ain't doing. Like he's doing things different. And people kind of are like, well, why would you want to shoot through a steel drum?
Why not?
Why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like exactly.
Why not?
Why not? I mean, I know it's not a deer, but if you can send a broadhead through a steel drum, guess what it's going to do to a buck?
Yeah.
That's what it's going to do to an elk. You know what I mean? Or whatever your big game you're hunting at that time.
And all they're doing there, I don't think a lot of people realize on that too, is that all they're doing is testing the strength of the broadhead. Because like, I mean, if you look at a rage, how thin they are, they just bend or break or whatever.
And that was kind of my worry with these guys a little bit. But I'm telling you, after shot after shot after shot, you can check it out. Shot after shot after shot. I mean, they're not thin. They're not thin like a rage, but
definitely a lot thicker than a rage.
I've just heard so many good things about them.
And I've heard good things about those too.
And if I had more time, I would probably I think I'm going to try to get into shooting some sort of a heavier fixed blade, because I do a lot of ghillie hunt. But a lot of times when I do ghillie hunt, I'm not shooting my regular bow. I'm taking a crossbow with me or something like that, where just because it's a little bit more, I don't know, it feels a little bit more ethical that way. I'm not trying to sit there and knock anybody's on the ground shooting a bow, because it can be done, and I've seen it done really well. But me personally, I'm trying to hunt some spots where I got minimal movement. It kind of takes you to that sniper feel, when you're just kind of in these little bitty, and it's weird because when you're hunting a lot of those like buck bedded, you don't got a broad range like you would in a tree to just kind of watch and look around. You're just tucked, you're nestled, you're in this little spot, and you maybe got 40 yards and maybe 20 yards wide. What you're looking at.
Yeah.
So it's just such a different. It's just an altogether different hunt. It's almost like hunting with a longbow or something, in my opinion. It's just like it's up close, it's a little much more personal. I mean, it's just, and if you smack a giant, I have yet to do it. I've came real close to shooting some studs. I've had a lot of good bucks go by me. We ghillie hunted last year. A buddy of mine from Chicago had never hunted before. Dude, I mean, that deer was 10 yards, nose, you could see the steam coming out of his nose. I mean, he was stomping. Oh, dude, he was intense. And I'll have to show you the hole, the exit, or the entry hole from this broadhead. It's Reg Mega Meat. Or not Reg Mega Meat, G5 Mega Meat. Sorry, I didn't mean to say Reg. G5 Mega Meat. Oh my goodness. That thing, as soon as he shot him, his face hit the ground. I was like, oh, dude, it's huge. The entry was like that big around. I'm not kidding. It was gross looking. Like he didn't go. Yeah. It was. He goes, "Do you think he's dead?" I'm like, "Nah, dude. I think he's toast, dude. I watched it all. I was just getting ready to hit record. Like we hadn't been there 15 minutes. I'm not kidding. We actually heard a buck fight 60 yards from us walking in, and I was like, "Oh crap!" It was between the little tree beds in the next field over to us, and there's probably 30 yards or so of trees in between us. Just a little narrow strip all the way down this field. He's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Dude, that is two studs getting after it." Like you could hear them hard, just crash. I'm like, "Dude, we gotta get set up." We got set up, Obviously, no hunt ever goes like that, like literally. And I told him, man, I was like, "Dude, just letting you know, like what just happened this morning, like never happens that smooth." It was just the whole experience was freaking awesome, and it was public, about 120-inch deer on public. Yeah, so I wish I would have had a little bit better footage. I should have been better about it. I didn't really know. I knew he was going to have good deer in there, but I didn't know what was going to get into that early. It was like end of October, I believe. So deer were really getting after it that end of October. That's my favorite time to hunt. So and that brings another question. What's your favorite time of year to hunt? Like if you were to pick a week that you had to set aside every year, what would you hunt?
First week in November.
Just 1 week.
First week in November. That's pretty. Everybody's in it.
Ooh. First week in November or the last week of October.
I was about to say last week of October.
That's a magical time.
They're not quite in it.
Yep.
But they're
starting to search.
Yep. They're starting to search a little bit. Those first few does that go into heat. If you got a doe in heat or late October, but you better be in the stand.
There'll be a line of bucks.
Yep. There'll be a ton of them.
Yep.
A ton of them in that area. And here's the thing about that: they're not in that jockey. They're jockeying for breeding ground. In my opinion, I feels like the bucks in the October time frame, late October, mid-October to late October, they're searching for those areas that can take those too. The older bucks, if you've got them figured out, you can kind of sit there and go, "I know where he's going to take. He's been taking those there for the last 2-3 years." It's those 4.5-year-old rummer bucks. Those are the ones that always throw me off in the season, because I've had some 4.5-year-olds that have showed up that are like, I've never had on camera, stuff like that. During that trying to find them little home ranges or micro ranges, I like to call them little micro home ranges. Those deer are the hardest to pass. Oh my goodness, those deer are the hardest to pass, because they're all 140s usually, high 130s, mid 140s. That's a hard deer to pass up.
Yeah.
140-inch deer is like, that's kryptonite, man. It is so damn hard to pass up. I mean, you see something like that on your farm, it makes you change your mind, and that's pretty much how my season was last year. I had shoot, I showed you guys a few pictures. I probably had 4 or 5 shooters on the farm last year, and they were consistent. Like they stayed there, 2 of them stayed there pretty much the whole season. They're just smart. And then I had some of those roamers come in, but you know, I don't know how you guys are or where you guys are at in your career as far as just hunting in general. I'm to a point where age is my thing, and just like I hunt a specific buck. Like I get in, I really do. That may sound stupid to some, but I've gotten to a point where I really kind of hone in and go, man, can I kill that mature, smart buck? That's what I want to shoot.
Where I'm at right now, it's more of a, if I see a mature deer and I know it's his time, like, there you are, you're right here in front of me, I can tell you're, 4.5, 5, like, I'm gonna shoot it.
Right.
That's where I'm at right now, and I think Hunter's kind of there too.
Yeah.
And
I think God picks a deer for you. You know what I mean? I want to set that straight first. Like I think, I was real upset last year. I beat myself up a little bit about that buck. I showed you, which they wouldn't beat themselves up about that buck. You know what I mean? It was 54 yards, giant. Probably, it's one of those things where every time I see a buck like that and in that caliber and that close, it's like, man, am I ever going to get that again? You know what I mean? And then killing him during gun just, it ain't the same. It ain't the same as, and not that I wouldn't, because if he's in front of me, trust me, he'd be toast. I really, really, really wanted to bow kill that buck that last year. I had it set in my mind. I passed probably 140's 8. That was,
Yeah, I don't know if I would have been able to have done that one.
He was big. He was a really nice deer. I have to show you pictures of him. I got some pictures of him from last year, but I think he's back. He's bigger this year, and it's kind of a deer that my daughter really wants to shoot. We call him the Bully 9. He's got a little sticker comes off this one, or I think it's right side. But you get to that point though. You're 4.5, 5.5, like you said. And I think that's kind of where I'm partially still in that phase. Where it sounds kind of dumb maybe, but like I could shoot a 140-inch deer. Like I can.
Right.
I know I can. And a few of them sitting on the ding. You've seen them this morning, but. It's just not the same as that. Like you get something like this. That's a different feeling.
Oh,
you said you said it yourself. You pull something like that, and your dad, when he's like, oh crap, no, that is a giant. Like
Well, yeah, like
it's a different. It hit like you said. It hits different. You know what I mean? It hits different.
Yeah, I mean it's just Dad's never shot nothing. He's almost 50 years old.
I don't know if I can hear it. There you go.
Dad's almost 50 years old, and he's had big deer in front of him, but something like that, it's just, like I said, a game changer.
It is. And it's, you get, like for me, I got to that point where, teaching was bigger than anything. Like right now, I'd say teaching is probably the number one thing for me. Like and I'm not the best hunter. I'm not even going to sit there and try to pretend to be like one of the greats. I'm not a Don Higgins. I'm not a Tony LaPratt. I'm none of those. I'm nothing that great. I will be at some point, and I know I will be at one point. But I'm not afraid of information. I'm not afraid to learn. I'm not afraid to put, a thought. Some people might go, man, that's a dumb idea. I'd never do that. I'm like, it might work on that spot though.
Right.
Like I've seen big deer killed in dumb ways more than I've seen big deer killed in strategic ways. And, if that makes any kind of sense.
And to kind of go back to the strategy thing, like that's a big deal too. Is just getting different kinds of knowledge and then putting it together.
I think every buck has something different to offer.
Exactly. They all kind of have almost a different personality in a way,
They do. They 100% do. I mean, 2 of those bucks are out there that I showed you before, both on the same farm. One didn't move off that spot. I'm telling you, he literally lived probably within 1,000 yards of that home range, like at 3.5. And that's kind of that's really uncommon for a 3.5-year-old.
He had a small core range already.
But like I said, he was so big in framing. I think big bucks, just generally older bucks or more dominant bucks, tried him. He was probably a good. I didn't have any pictures of him as a 2.5-year-old. I might have. I don't know. I didn't really thumb back through pictures at all. But I had a ton of him that season. I knew he was a good deer, but he wasn't something on the radar. And it was kind of crazy because the first time he walked in, I had him at like 17 yards or something like that. Perfect. Eating turnips, right in front of me. I watched him for probably 30 minutes, and the whole time I'm like, gosh, do I shoot that? And then he just kept turning broadside. I'm like, no, dude, he is so young. Like, that deer is young. And I thought, if he comes out, I'm going to save that buck. Because if he comes out, he might be, let's see what he does. And he came out, I don't know, probably between 7 and 15 more times, somewhere in that range. I think I calculated down to 11 times I had encounters with him that season. And I didn't even gun hunt but 2 days that season. And that's when I shot him with a gun. Because he got hurt or whatever, which I told you guys. But, when you, that caliber of 5.5, I actually love that big heavy frame buck more than I like that masterclass buck there. Even though the masterclass is cool, I'll probably never shoot another one of those ever again. Less than 2 inches of deduction is insane. Like, that's very rare that you ever get something like that. But if he'd had another year, at least just one more year, I'd have been. I bet you that deer the next year would have been 170 inches, probably. He probably had the potential to grow.
Big.
Yeah.
If not 160, easy. It's only 20 or 18 inches is all he had to grow to get 160. He would have. I think he would have done it. Yeah. I really think he would have done it, and it kind of bums me out to not, have that. But at the same time, he wasn't going to make it through.
He's either you shoot or he's just not going to make it.
Coyotes are going to get
Coyotes are going to get him.
And I'm surprised it didn't.
Yeah.
Because that year we'd had a few, and I'd taken out, two different coyotes, 2 big coyotes that year. It was kind of running around the farm. Kind of got that issue this year, which I'm going to have you up for some trapping, because you're going to have to show me some of this, man. Because you've seen the size of that. I got a big old coon. I got a big old.
You got a bear coon.
I got a bear coon, dude. That thing is insane. I've never seen one that big. I've seen a lot of coons in front of my cameras, but
I've never seen one that big.
I didn't. I thought it was. Like, when I first glanced, I really thought it was like a cub. Like, I happened, I was like, what the heck? I was scrolling through pictures and I went back and I was like, holy crap. Like, that thing's huge.
Kind of makes you wonder what that thing would weigh.
Oh, I'm telling you, we can go out there and trap him. We can go trap him. I'm about it. I just want to see what he's about.
He's about it.
I'm about it. I think, we were talking about the whole collabing and doing stuff, That's something that's also a big thing for me. And one of the reasons we started this show is, one, knowledge, obviously. Be able to talk stories, strategies, anything that works, or that may not even work. Heck, it may not work. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of it's hunting. You know what I'm saying? Like, but to turn other people's ideologies down because it's not something that necessarily fits for you, fine, go do that. You're not going to kill big bucks.
Right.
You're just not. And I'll say it. Like, anybody can get offended all they want. You ain't going to kill big bucks if you don't broaden your spectrum. That's like having, like I tell people all the time, it's like having a carpenter come to your house with one tool. He ain't fixing nothing.
Yeah.
He comes with a tool belt. And, it may sound dumb to somebody, but if it killed a big buck, it ain't dumb no more. You know what I mean? And in my opinion, even if it kills deer in general, it worked. It's not dumb. So, bringing that type of podcast was pretty much why I wanted to do this, was, get groups of people together. Find out how bucks like this are killed,
Yeah.
You were saying, everything was going wrong that day. Everything that could have went wrong went wrong that day.
Mm-hmm.
But you did something right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You switched stands. You got crazy with it. You said, I hung this stand and didn't even think anything of it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something I normally would have done.
The day before rifle season.
Enough said. Like, literally, that's enough said. You spelled it out. Stuff that you wouldn't normally do because you've stuck in a rut thinking this is how it's supposed to be done.
And then the very next day, 155-inch deer is killed.
Killed out of the same stand?
The next day.
That's insane. There was an episode on Midwest Whitetail one time where they were talking about, dude, this does the same stand location work. And there was all these guys who were like, oh, you never kill, you don't ever shoot big bucks out of the same stand and this and that. And I'm like, I've killed way good bucks out of the same stand. Mm-hmm. Like, a couple different times. Nothing like that. Nothing this big. This is huge. 155 and 171 that's real big. That's real good progress in 2 days. You know what I mean? That's over 320 some inches. Mm-hmm. But I have a hard time with that, man. Like, sitting down with people and just not wanting to hear what their thought process is. I think it's so dumb. I think as hunters that we owe it to each other. You know what I mean? Let's talk strategy. Let's talk what your favorite thing is. Let's do those things so that the person that's trying to learn it, you're not hunting with somebody that's doesn't know what's going on, but you're hunting with somebody at least got a grasp. Yeah. If they have an issue, like, I've actually gone back in this same series on a buck that I had last year, and I wish I would have done the strategy that this guy did Charlie Nolan. I wish I'd have stuck to that same type of pattern because it was perfect. It would have went perfect with what I was trying to do, and I bet you I would have wrapped my tag around that 180 inch last year. I guarantee it, because as soon as he spilled it out to me, we sat back after we were done with the show, and we were talking, overlooks of our properties. And he goes, "Did you ever check this spot?" And it was just a spot that I literally was like, "No." Like I did. I was like, I got a camera down there, and I actually forgot about that camera. I had it up there it was dead. It was dead by the time I got to it. I totally forgot about it. That buck was in there the whole time. The whole time. He was 200 yards from me. I was 200 yards off. And if I'd have had that knowledge, I would have capitalized on that deer. And that's why it's when I get you guys on these shows, and I bring different outdoor programs. I love the fact that you guys want to come on the show and talk stories, because it helps me as a hunter. It helps somebody else as a hunter.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to talk, and we get to figure out what it is that you guys like to do strategy wise. We talk about thermals, and we talk about wind. We talk about heavy arrow setups. Where we like to hunt our heavy arrow setups. Mm-hmm. You get every aspect by going on these shows and sharing your knowledge. Because why hold on to it? How many people they're like, I'm not gonna tell you where I killed that deer, or how big that deer is, or or how I did it. I'm like, why? Like, it's a deer. At the end of the day, it's a deer. Granted, if you told somebody where this buck was, would somebody probably try to come and poach it? I'm sure they would. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it's there. Is he going to be successful? Probably not. It's really hard to shoot these big mature bucks, and even in the dark, it really is hard. Yeah. And I've had guys tell me that for years. I don't tell people because I'm afraid to get poached. If he's living in a core area and he's 5.5, by all means, try it, because I'm telling you, he's not going to be in an area where he's just open, unless he's just comfortable and dove in the middle of the day. Then it might happen.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't seem like in big bucks at night.
Yeah. No.
So what's the point? Is basically what I'm getting. What's the point? Like, where did he live?
Exactly.
Like, where did
I'll
he
get
live?
into that. I'm gonna tell you right now. So about I'd say a couple weeks after I shot this deer, I had a guy DM me on Instagram because he'd seen the Instagram post, or somebody had shown him. He's like, "Where'd you shoot that deer?" And I'm like, told him the area, the county, and blah blah blah. He sends me about 12 trail cam pictures of this deer, about a mile and a half north where our farm's at. And he was telling me about it. He's like, "Yeah, I've been chasing this deer for 2 years. He lives up in here, but every year during a rut he leaves. We don't know where he goes." And he said the night before.
You do.
I do. I know where he went. And the night before rifle season, he had him about 30 yards bow hunting.
So he went
a mile following a doe.
Following a doe. I said a minute ago, I watched a guy shoot a buck 10 miles. 10 miles. It was like 9 and some change. But pretty much 10 miles from where that buck was on camera the night before.
Yeah, like, people don't realize, that's why the rut's just something, a totally different conversation you can get into. Like, those deer get on a hot doe. I just feel like the bucks just, this one did it, and I've kind of seen it more in some more deer that we've killed around the farm. They just, brains just, those couple weeks where they just don't care. I feel like
us, man. Come on, man. You see that smoking hot chick, you're like,
yeah.
You give it a look. You know what I'm saying? But like them bucks, boy, they get lost.
Right place, right time.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what it boiled down to.
So to talk about that spot, you explained it a little bit to me, but is it ridge? Is it like so? How does that set up? Is it a bowl? Is it nasty thick? Or is it just?
So there's, like I said earlier.
I'll go back to this webcam there. There you go.
So like this is a fence. This is just your normal crappy old fence.
Gotcha.
So over here there's a creek. This is the field edge. So this is woods right here. This is all woods. So it goes in an angle downward to this creek.
Okay.
So on this side.
So this is a ridge. Now is that north and south, east, west?
Yeah. This is north. This is south.
So north facing slope.
Yeah.
It's key, guys. What the heck is it about the dang north facing side?
So, but on the other side of this fence, it just flattens out because it's a cow pasture on the other side. But it's a wooded cow pasture.
Okay.
It's thick, nasty in there.
So I got a question about this. This keeps coming back up. Do you hunt like next to pasture quite a bit, like cow pasture?
Mm-hmm.
There's some giants that just keep getting killed out of these little transition areas by pasture. So I don't know if there's something to it. Like
I'm a firm believer in that deer feel comfortable around cattle.
Cow.
It's insane. Like,
Well, I showed you that new piece that my
Yeah.
dad got. He's got, I don't know, 20 cattle or so on it.
Mhm.
Nothing crazy. You know, I mean, and they're going to be gone in September. They're supposed to be gone by September. It's already supposed to be gone. They ate up a food plot and they lick every salt block to nothing in a couple days that I put in there. But I keep trying to replenish it and do it on like the frost seed, do some other crap to get it to come in, but I'm gonna go back over here. But, you know, you talk about those transitions between cattle pasture, food, and bedding. So you had a cattle pasture, a good amount of woods, a creek bottom transition on a north facing slope. Those are all things that a lot of people talk about when it comes to shooting these big bucks.
so basically what I'm getting at is this is that same fence line from earlier. I just moved it over on the whiteboard.
Blurry now. Sometimes this dang thing goes blurry. The only way to fix it, this dang camera, which I bought because it was 4K,
Yeah.
the only way to fix it is to take the lens off the front of it.
I'll just kind
I
of
looked
explain
at
it. So basically, from that stand where I shot that deer on the other side of that fence, there's a tree line that runs all the way through the cow pasture, right? Well, it's about, 50 yards wide and runs all the way up to the front of the property, right?
Okay?
So it divides the fields, which we don't
The
hunt.
fence divides the
Yeah,
field.
this is this little tree line that runs up. There's hayfield here, and the guy that owns property.
So this is a
right
big
here.
draw.
Yeah, yeah,
Big draw.
big draw. I mean, but the
How
thing
wide is it?
It's about 50 yards wide.
That's another thing, man. So you kind of got all of it in one little area.
But the thing is,
Do you see a lot of bucks bed in that big draw?
that is the only time I've ever seen that deer in there.
That's the only time
When I killed that deer, besides
I bet
see
you
little
they've
does.
been. I bet you they've been.
Oh, they're in
Just
there.
did
It's
notice
just
it.
it's so thick, and the thing is that
So what's on the other side? On the other side of the fence? Is that?
so the fence on this side.
No. That side it's got
Oh, so
the
the-
draw
going the
and
other way.
cattle pasture
Okay.
going the other way.
So going the other way. So if
Is
you
there
start-
ag that way?
Well, it gets there eventually. It's another hayfield.
Dude, there's something about these hayfields too.
So I can kind of draw out what
Yeah.
our farm looks like.
A little
Is
bit
so
bigger.
we got like a 100-acre bean field, and then basically everything to the hold on. Okay. Everything to the west is
Okay.
tree and hayfield. So the little bean field, little cornfield, give or take the year.
Yeah.
But that's kind of hunt that early season. I'm kind of the only one that kind of hunts over there because
Now, when you're hunting your food, what's your thought process on food? Do you ever hunt in the morning? I don't ever hunt food in the morning. It's just
so
not
I used to basically go whenever I could because school.
Well, yeah,
work.
school and work.
But during early season, I don't see the gist of going in the morning because this place, especially this bean field, is so hard to access. So like if we were hunting today,
Yeah.
I'd go in there at like 11 o'clock and sit till dark.
Yeah.
Because if I walk in there in the morning, I'm gonna bump so many
So
deer
many.
out.
Well, I've noticed that just on the farm that I hunt up by Emerson area, man. So I'm a firm believer in you hunt over food in the evening, you hunt big woods in the morning. And the reason I say that is because most of your, well, from my experience, I'm not gonna sit there and say everybody's experience, but most of my, when you're hunting them morning transition areas, you get in there at 4 o'clock in the morning, super early, whatever you
Yep.
do, get in there
100%.
super early. Hunt that bedding that he's going to come back to after he's done feeding in the morning.
Yep.
And then vice versa in the evening.
Well,
You can hunt
yeah.
the same core area. I hear a lot of guys sit there and go, man, you never hunt the same stand all day. You never hunt the same stand twice. I don't think any of that has to do with any of it. I think
You
if
got
have
good
the right wind.
yeah,
and it's-
wind access and a way to get in and out. See, we got so many buddies.
So that's what's your access like on that piece?
So that bean field, it's not great. So basically, I kind of draw a square here. 'Cause that's basically what the bean field is. And this is the tree line. This is trees, and then this is trees. So I
Okay.
got like a little knoll of tree line. There's let me redo that because it's really not that close. So it's basically the tree lines on this side, but then I just got this little boop of trees right here, then
Mhm.
more field over here. So there's parking here and there's parking here.
Yeah,
You walk in through here, you're screwed.
Yeah,
You walk in through here, well that's great, but my stand's over here.
right.
And if I walk through here, there's deer that bed in here.
Bed in that little knob.
So I'm like, what do I do? So we gotta walk, and then we can't go this way because that's the neighbors, and they won't let us do that because that'd be so much easier for me just to.
Yeah.
So I gotta
Yeah, you can't do that, especially if you got the wind.
So-
the wind that you want would be blowing down into that bowl for that
Yeah.
setup.
So because I can't hunt on this side because I can't get to it. I can do this, but then see there's a road here, well then there's a tree line that goes all the way over here, but I can't get to here because the tree line just keeps bumping out and it goes in and there's trails out the walls and those deer hunted there for 10 years, they bed literally right on the edge and you can't get in there.
You know, that's something that's like talked about a lot too on the show, and just in general. You know, people think these deer live way out there.
No.
They
You go into a property where it's being used a lot, dude. Them trails are maybe 20 foot off the name.
100%.
They're really not far. I talk about that pretty religiously, really. I mean, you know, you got guys that, you know, mainly on public lands where I find that, you know, people trek away into public land. And I got nothing against it.
And sometimes it's the opposite.
No,
sometimes,
I think most of the time it's the opposite. I think most of the deer live in close.
Yeah, there's
Because why wouldn't they? It's easy access to get out.
you'll see them bed off the road a lot of time. Like if there's crop fields or something, they'll bed in that. If there's some thick cover or something right there on the road, and they'll just jump the fence or whatever, and they'll run across the road on private. They know what they're doing.
Right, and that's kind of where I was going at with that whole. We talked about the whole.
Yeah.
Are you back on there?
Yeah, because I want to.
That's kind of what you know when you talk about that right there. The whole bedding right far off that road. We talk about the little draws that are just kind of thick and nasty.
Yeah.
So a big thing about those little draws that I've kind of noticed just from hunting public land areas. Those are next to these cattle pastures where they've got a wide open range to run.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these big bucks, a lot of reason they like those little cattle pasture going into a little transition area. Chad, my buddy last year, killed a deer literally in that same type of scenario. Cattle pasture with a fence on the left-hand side. It's on the back side of this big old nice lake. It was just a funnel.
Yep. Yeah, I mean.
And he wasn't bedded far. He would not bedded far. We found scrapes and rubs 13 feet from the car. We pulled into that spot. And I literally went, dude, don't get no easier than that. Everybody else was using this 7,000 acre public land area.
Oh, dude, you get on 2-3 acres. My girlfriend, her grandpa, he lives out here in Holiday, Missouri.
Okay.
You know where Holiday is at?
Dude, there's a farm in Holiday I really want to buy.
Well,
it's not bad. It's cheap. They want like 4,000 an acre right now.
Wow.
And it looks sweet.
He owns about.
Right now, but
He's got a little pond, little food pond, about 15 acre, ain't nothing. And the bags of I told Kennedy, I was like, that's her name, my girlfriend's name. I was like, it's a gold mine. She's like, why? She's like, you don't have nothing. I said, two things. There's a crop field over here. So here's basically the field, like his little acres, like right here. There's a crop field over here. There's timber over here. Across the road, there's a crop field, and behind it, because it sets up on public. Well, it sets up on
back up to public.
It backs up to public, but the public ain't marked. Well, it's marked, but it's not marked on Onyx. So it's weird. We've done a lot of research on it. I can't think of it now, but behind.
That's odd. Maybe they just don't.
But it's like 700 acres of public, all tree. So I'm like, he literally has the only water source.
In that whole valley.
And he had this deer in there, and I was like, but setting up in it was horrible. I mean, he'd had he'd been hunting there for years just for food and stuff. He had to stand in there. I mean, but it wasn't no knock to him. They spot you real easy because the stand's like sitting on that tree line. Well, then it dips down and comes back up. Well, they're 100 yards.
Yeah.
Looking at you.
Yeah.
I'm like, how am I going to hunt this thing?
Switchgrass, those tree lines, man. That's. My uncle, he talks about all that. Do you guys watch you watch Don Higgins at all, by chance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, start watching Don Higgins.
Okay.
Secondly, start watching Tony LaPratt.
I've seen
Tony LaPratt. Both of them legends in their own mind. I mean, like legends in general. I mean, they're both completely different styles of management, but you learn a lot from them. And you're talking about these 15-acre pieces that are just gold mines, but how do you hunt them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's
all
maintenance.
It's management.
To get back to access.
It's always about access on those little honey holes.
See, we have a lot of buddies that are like,
does it dip down or anything like that? Is it great? Like, what's the field grade?
So the field's just like no, it's not like a hay field. It's just tall grass, brush hogs it every year.
Gotcha.
It's not even but probably 5 acres I mean, you probably couldn't hunt about 5 acres
if
every
you put
day.
if you put like just a 3-acre micro plot in there, put a dang fence up, or put an electric fence to keep them out of there until about, I don't know, August 30th, take it all off, you'd have a dynamite early season stand, especially if there's big ones next to it. And then like everything we talk about access, you know, miscanthus is a good one for you know, and switchgrass. They're all really tall, nasty, brushy stuff. You know, if you got a spot where you want to hunt, that stuff will grow 6 to 8 foot in the first year or so. So if you got a spot that's kind of hard to access, just line it wherever you're going to go.
Yeah. So we got a lot of buddies that are like, yeah, we went in there hunting, and then, you know, we didn't see anything. He said there's trail cam pictures of deer all the time. I'm like, okay, well, when I asked him, when'd you go in there? He's like, about 1 o'clock. I'm like, okay. Which way is the wind blowing? He said, well, north. I'm like, okay.
Why would you go in there in the north? Because the tree line's on the north side, right? Or is that what you said?
This is his buddy's spot. What I'm getting at is, they're forgetting about access and wind. They're bumping the deer. They're bumping the deer. And he's like, well, sometimes they ask me at hunter, like, why aren't you going hunting? I was like, I'm not going to go in there and bump no deer. It's like, I was like, what if there's another one like this standing in there? I don't know. I'm not just going to. So, have I done that? Yes.
I mean, I think we all go through.
When we were first trying to get
yeah, I mean, like just
to grow TPO, we just like, I told my buddies, like, we gotta go out there. Like, we gotta get footage of deer. Like, we're not getting any footage of deer. We have to go out there.
Right.
You know, that's what we did. And last year, there's a video on our channel where we had the complete wrong wind, and was hunting that bean field, accessed it horribly, but I was like, we gotta go. We gotta try. Weather was good, and you know, we had a buck that actually came in. I shot over him. He's just a little bitty deer. You know, it's actually kind of a miscommunication between me and the cameraman because I couldn't see him, but he was on him the whole time. I'm like, is he a shooter? He's like, well, it's a big 8. I'm like, okay. You said he knows what a mature deer looks like, and you know, like 2 years old, and about shot him out of the deer stand. So,
but I mean, in that moment, they get
you don't look at him because I was like, okay, boom, shot right over top of him, and I was ate up because of miss, but I was also like,
yeah, that deer needed some time.
Yeah.
I mean, I run into that quite a bit. I think, you know, access, and I think it takes about 3 years to get used to any property you're hunting. On average, I think once you're in that 3rd year, you've got a lot of wind figured out. You've got how some of these spots. You've gone through the failure of what doesn't work in the spots you want to hunt.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's guys out there. I know a few of them that are out there that can literally go into a piece and kill a giant. It don't matter where they're at. They're like picking it apart. My buddy Chad, he's like that. He can go into a spot and go, I'm gonna hunt here, and I'm gonna smoke a cigarette in this deer stand, and I'm gonna smash a giant. And you're gonna be like, how did you do that? He does it every year, every single year, if not twice, 3 times a year.
Sounds like somebody else I know.
Wind.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I do it too.
Wind.
Cigars.
Cigars. I mean, yeah, but I'm saying, you know, wind.
You could do just
And
about
access.
anything you would want if the wind's right, I feel like.
Oh, 100%. But we talk about that scent control time. I think it helps.
It does help.
It makes you less pungent.
Well,
I'll give it that. It makes you less.
I got a
there.
scent crusher bag and all that, but these.
I do too.
But like some of these guys that like buy like all that stuff, you know, like I don't know if you walk this stand and put your clothes on bottom of the deer stand.
I in the early season, yes.
Yes.
In late season, no. And only reason I do that, here's my thing. On the farm that I hunt predominantly, it's got a lot of action, like tons. And I mean, it is not unreal for me to see 30 to 60 deer in an evening.
Jeez.
Like, I'm not kidding. I'm not even playing. A lot of does, a lot of smaller bucks.
It's still fun to see all that.
But it's just packed all the time. Fawn, and that's including fawns. And it may, some of them may be the same exact deer that come out 2 or 3 times, you know what I mean, in an evening. And a lot of it, I do hunt that farm a lot in the evening because I think it sets up better for the evening. Now, in saying that, I've killed 2 bucks in the daytime out there and 1 in the evening. But I'm not close. I wasn't as close as I needed to be in the evening. And I was worried about access, stuff like that. But that farm, I think what the scent control does, in my opinion, is, I say it all the time on the show, deer can smell you up to a quarter mile away. They can smell you real good. The older they get, the better they're about it. The younger they are, they don't really care.
Oh, yeah,
They're just kind of like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, what
young
is
bucks
that?
are like, oh,
Yeah,
here we are.
that's a big turkey up there. You know what I mean? Like, when you're sitting there,
The mature buck will be 50, 100 yards over there.
see you go.
And
Now that thing throws arrows at me. I ain't doing that today.
And the does are almost I think they're worse than the bucks.
They give me that look.
If you got a mature doe, yes. A young doe, I don't really run into issues with young does. I've killed so many young does right underneath me, and I know they smell me. You know.
Well, it's like that doe you had, an 8-year-old doe.
The old does. There was.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
This where I hunted last couple of years. The neighbor to the north was like, yeah, there's like an 8-year-old doe running around. I was like, no way. Well, of course, this second set I'd ever hunted there, I was sitting in that little ladder stand, turn around, she's the first deer I see. I mean, she's like light gray, like, well, that's white, but
just real, almost like an old buck,
like a shirt. Yeah, I mean, just that color. Her brisket was hanging real low. I was like, that's that deer. And she came up out of this little draw. There's like 3 hay fields. I mean, they were.
Here, I can draw. I can spin you over here.
So the stand was right here. There was like a draw here. There's a hay field there. Keep in mind, each hay field's probably 60 yards, and then there's another one that went up back here. This back one was bigger, but I was watching this middle one. Well, she came up out of that
little draw there.
That draw about halfway down. Walked in, got it 30 yards.
She caught you. She caught you.
She knew. I mean, because I wasn't moving. I had a hold of my bow. I was getting ready to shoot her, and she had her head down, was feeding, and just boom,
picked you off quick.
And the wind wasn't in her nose, no nothing. And we locked eyes for over half an hour, just staring each other down.
No, that's
Stomp,
you imagine doing that for half an hour.
I had one doe last year that she really needs to go. But okay, I spend more time following does than I do bucks. And I'll tell you what, I think does are the most important thing on the farm. Everything revolves around the doe, in my opinion. You can hunt the big bucks, but if your doe population ain't smart, you're screwed up. And if you ain't got your doe population figured out, that's the next thing you need to do. If that's something you guys aren't studying, you need to start studying the shit out of it now, because it is so detrimental. Tony the Pratt talks about keeping 20%, 30% of your farm a doe haven, because these big bucks don't like being in that nasty crap. Or I mean that like hectic areas. I guess not nasty. They love nasty. They don't like hectic. They don't like little does. They don't like young bucks. They don't like any of that crap. Early season, not so bad. They kind of have the bachelor groups and stuff, but even those bucks, if you watch them, they'll keep to themselves for the most part. They aren't really associating. They're just kind of there.
Yeah, they're there.
They're traveling together, kind of there together.
I'll roll with you for now.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of like a small companionship, you know, or a hierarchy or whatever you want to call it. So these does, though, and I did this last year. My Uncle Tom started talking to me about Tony the Pratt last year, and so I was like, you know, I'm going to look into this guy. And I've been following the guy for a little bit over a year now, about a year and a half or so. Gosh, was he on point when he said, you know, like, I watched this huge piece of ground that was in government CRP, and it's probably 70, 80 acres of it. It's just a huge CRP field. I watched 40-something does walk out of that like a train, just one after another. It's like, oh my goodness.
Wow.
Like, oh my goodness. Wow. And then we're talking December 26th, it's muzzleloader season. It's the day after Christmas, which I love.
Yes.
And I didn't even get to hunt the rest of it because I got sicker than crap after that. And my buddy was down here. I should have, because I had a buddy from Washington, ended up going with another buddy, Chad, and they had a good time. We killed a lot of deer, but it's crazy to me because that spot was so doe heavy that, like, it changed the game on what those bucks were doing. And you know how we have second rut. I don't know if you guys hunt any of that second rut.
Try to.
You know, a lot of people sit there and say I think it's same time every year. I was kind of a believer in the whole rut situation. Now I have seen deer move as early as the 6th of December, but kind of in that rutty activity again. And I don't know if that's just because some of them kind of don't come out of it. I don't know how that works, but you know, watching those bucks come and patrol that area, I had a camera over there pretty much all summer long, and all I got on it was does, fawns. Occasionally a buck would come through there, like very rarely. As soon as November 17th hit, that spot had more big buck action than any other spot on the farm. And it was crazy because I was like, dude, there ain't even nothing over there for them to feed on. There ain't nothing. They just knew where them does were. They knew exactly where them old bucks, they had their home body spots, and they were actually pretty far off of where they were going to. So I was getting these cameras, or these pictures of these big bucks, and I don't know if you guys have this issue at like 3 in the morning. Hitting a scrape, 4 in the morning, hitting a scrape, hitting a spot that you had kind of panned out, a mineral site, or some of those called congregational areas, hitting it at 3 in the morning. Well, what I was finding out was those big bucks were getting up at 3-ish in the morning, and they were on about 80% of the farm. And they were traveling to an area that was completely covered up in does, and it was only 20% of the farm, and it was covered up in does. And they were coming back and through, and they had several different routes to get there. And it was all wind dependent, obviously. Wet winds they would walk into, keep themselves smart. But it seemed like we talk about that rut. The only reason they would use different ones was during that rut period. It was the only time. But then that's why I keep saying that early and late to me are better than focusing on the rut. Because the rut, they're gonna go everywhere. And I run probably 15 cameras on this guy right here.
Point explain right there. They travel anywhere.
Travel all over.
Yeah.
And it's funny because he might have been home ranging on that guy,
Could
but
be.
he knew where there was a good doe population on your area. And he was willing, I bet you he was up 3 o'clock, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Probably hit some food on the way there, hit some mock scrapes, chased a doe, went to a heavy doe area and chased a doe into that little area where you were at. Almost guarantee it. And that's how you want to set your property up. You know, you're making destinations. You're not creating. If you've got a small property, you can't really create a home body range. I've had guys say that you can. That's if you're lucky and you just got a lot of thick crap that you can't hunt. Yeah, obviously you're gonna have some good deer in there. But creating those destination points and really focusing on that doe and keeping those does really, really happy in one specific area. Now I didn't make that government CRP. I'm just saying it was there, so I used it to my advantage. You know what I mean? I was like, man, there's tons of does in that. And I was noticing it every evening I sat out there. I was like, there's so many does in that area. And like, sure as crap hit, man, well, they would walk right through that area. They would come right through that area. They were doing it 20, 30 minutes before dark. And you talked about, having a hard spot to hunt, because of wind factors and access. Well, that was kind of why I didn't move in closer to that spot, because I literally had nothing. There's nothing I could set up in. Now, I ghillie hunted it and about shot a giant out of there. Would have been October 28th. Man, I mean, he's stuck. And I didn't get a chance to follow up on him. I actually ended up getting camera pictures of another giant that I was chasing on the other side of the farm, and he was there for like 3 days. I should have been hunting there, but I had that picture of that guy. So, I mean, we sit here all day and talk about, the perfect setup. I don't think it's so much about setup as it is, what is your doe population? The does are the most important because, one, they're the ones being bred. They're carrying your genetic. They're the ones that make this guy in the womb. The most important part about this guy is he could go and spread his seed all over with 20 different does. If she ain't got a good genetic, his offspring will look tiny. Point blank. First, all the genetics are made in that first, I think it's like 7 or 8 weeks of that fawn's life in the womb. You got a good mature doe, and you've got good mature bucks on your property that keep showing up like him. Don't shoot them older does right off the get. Let them sit there another couple of years. Let the mother 2.5-year-old does get a little bit bigger. Pick off a few of the younger does during the early season. And I started doing this last year, and I had way more buck activity. I was picking off some of the more rambunctious does. Not the old nannies, because big bucks don't mind the old nannies. They understand. They're easy to breed. They're not going to run as hard. And if you've got 7 nannies in the field, guess where he's going to be?
Yeah.
He's going to be out there.
He's going to be out there with them before he's going to chase some young doe 15 miles. You know what I'm saying? Now, he might have went 1.5 miles because that other place didn't have a good doe population. You got probably a better doe population than you know. I guarantee you.
Oh, yeah. We got a good doe population.
And dude, it's so key. I hate hearing that when I hear guys go, man, I'm going to shoot a bunch of does up at the beginning of the year and make it more of a buck haven. I'm like, I just think that's such backwards thinking. I'm not, and I could be wrong. I mean, this is all personal, things that I've tried over the years. I found that I had more mature bucks, and I showed you guys some of the pictures I had. Dude, I'm telling you, I had every bit of 4 or 5 shooters in that 130-acre property last year. Wow. Every bit of it. All home ranged in one area. They each had their own areas. The property sets up well too, so that is part of it. Finding a property that works, sets to where you can do that. But man, I'm telling you, dude, there was just something about there's just something about like watching what them does, how they change that whole, that, you know, we talk about rut, we talk about those does change everything, dude. They're the most important part, I think, of hunting. And I've kind of, at my older age, you know, like, this is awesome. I love seeing this. This is amazing. This is a culmination of having the right setup, being in the right place, right time. You know, we talked about that. But it's because of your does. This guy's here because 100%. Of your does. Like, I promise you. And you know, it's kind of wild about this deer though. His throat patch is so short. It's kind of funny. He looks so cool. He's definitely 5.5 at least.
Oh, I think so. We thought he was.
Oh, I guarantee.
A little younger at first, but as I was like,
nah, he's.
I mean, look at that. I mean,
no, he's definitely. Look at his chest.
Yeah, I mean, he's.
And the backside of his ears are white.
Yeah.
And they're tore up. You know what I mean? Some of them are. It gouges in certain areas, you know what I'm saying, where he's been fighting. He's got age on him. They don't get like that unless they're something serious, you know what I mean, unless it's like a rare, I mean, it's rare that they're that big at 3.5, 4.5. I think. I've seen a lot of good bucks. I mean, and I've seen bucks that are 5.5. That jaw we sent off last year on that Baltimore buck, he was 5.5. And I mean, you guys felt the difference of 3.5 to 5.5. I always set those two old people come up because that's the first time shooting that 5.5-year-old there was like the first time I really got to hold what a buck's supposed to feel. Like that's what a buck, like this guy, this is what a buck's supposed to feel like. You know, he's had a chance to mature. He's big frame, heavy. He's got the mass. He's got the tine height. Now that is what you want. That's exactly what you want out of your property. And if you aren't striving for that, if you own personal property and you're able to do that and kind of maneuver some things, if you ain't striving for that, you're wrong. Because that dude's a pig.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we could sit here all day. I don't even know how long we've been on, an hour and a half already. But you know, we talk about all the strategy that goes into killing these big bucks, and it's fun. It's the reason I started this podcast, 100%. You know, but the most important part to me is, you know, teaching that next generation, teaching.
Oh yeah.
Just teaching, man. Like there's no reason we shouldn't talk about these bucks like this.
Want people to be hunting for years and years to go.
Yeah, and feel confident. You know what I mean? Like when you play a sport and you're not good at it, it just isn't fun. You know what I mean? And you're like, man, why am I out here doing this? I think that's the same way with bow hunting or deer hunting in general. If you don't got to be the best at it, but that's the one thing hunting can be. You can be the best at it.
Yeah.
You know, and if 120 inches gets your heart pumping like crazy, shoot that sucker all day. That's all day long. Shoot him all day long. Now, like we said, we're kind of to a point where 4.5. We're trying to stay in that because I think that deer is a different caliber to hunt. All together. And you know, same with does. But you guys are doing it. You guys are doing it right. You know what I mean? Get in there and learn your stuff. You know, take every bit of information. I love hearing guys that are interested in just scooping information up and you know, taking it and using it in a different set.
After being in the game for a little bit, like the filming game.
Yeah.
You know, I watch all these people, you know, like the big names right now, like the big names. When somebody asks me, when you think of a hunting YouTube channel, not like real traits or like that, like who do you think about? I said, well,
Sequoia's big. He's doing something different.
Yeah, which something completely different than anybody's ever even heard. Like you're hunting,
I'm telling
you, on somebody's back patio.
Yep, what he's doing, and Sequoia, I've been following that for a minute. The Sequoia thing. What he's doing is hunting these big bucks that I think are getting really used to. Like I think a lot of these big bucks like ambient noise. I think they do. You know, you think about if you were to have, let's put it this way, if you were to be shot at 4 or 5 times, right? Like you personally, just being shot at. One, you're not going to like public. Just not going to want to go out with it anymore. Secondly, you're going to want a distraction because you don't want to always be nervous.
So they're always in the.
There's just an ambient noise.
I mean,
a little bit of a smell that they're used to that you know, and they're just not being hunted in there. That's why.
He was talking about it. I don't think it was the main guy Lee. I think it was another guy. He was talking about how, you know, he didn't see any deer. Well, then the landscape crew came out and turned the leaf blower on.
Yep.
There they are.
Yep. So I had a buck, that giant actually, that I shot last year. A buddy of mine It was so freaking funny. Every time I drove the four-wheeler out there, I'd drop off corn. I start that in like, actually about now. About right now, going into probably August 15th. Mainly to get an inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So between now and then, I'll send you some footage of it because you're going to laugh. Every single time I'd start that four-wheeler up, drive it out to that deer to hit that spot within 10, 15 minutes. He was home ranging that close where he knew that as soon as he heard that four-wheeler go off, somebody was about to drop corn in there. And he would come to that spot every single time I dropped corn in there.
Well, see, something else like that, going back to the Seek 1 guys, another guy, they were chasing this deer, and they met in a parking lot. I can't remember what deer it was, and he's like, you go to the other end of this parking lot, turn, and just walk down it. I'm going to sit right here, and he's going to walk right here, and I'm going to shoot it. Because he knew his pattern and the food source in there and the wind, and he goes in there. 5 minutes later, shoots 100 and
huge. He shoots
huge deer.
Yeah, 180s
You're
plus.
just like,
he's shooting almost every time.
How you
I'm not sitting there saying what they're doing is easy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's
not.
easy. I do think
A lot of time and
it is
effort
a
into
different element.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
It's different. It's a different style of deer hunting. Like when you look around here, we're hunting big crop fields and stuff like that, and bottoms, and they're hunting.
I think those bucks get used to a lot of that smell though.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it makes them easier to hunt.
Well,
because I mean, I don't know. At the same time, I'm saying it does. You know what I mean? I think it does make it a little bit easier when you got a buck who's used to human scent.
yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, deer like, oh, well, you got to hunt the right way. I'm like, what about these urban areas that are filled with people? I mean, they're smelling people all the time. I mean, like,
They're not being shot at though.
but they're not being shot at though either. But I'm like, it's the
trust
area you
factor.
hunt in.
You know, if you were into a spot, let's just say, put yourself in like a deer mentality for a minute. If you walk into the supermarket and everything was free, would you come back to that supermarket?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd come back to that supermarket.
100%.
They're walking into these urban zone areas where people love feeding deer and squirrels and food's abundant. They don't even have to work hard for it.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not downplaying the Seek 1 guys at all because I think at the end of the day, you're hunting an animal that is very smart.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the pattern of those bucks are harder in those urban zone
Well, yeah.
areas. But I think if you've got them in
100%.
front of you, if you learn the pattern,
Yeah. Well, that's
they're
the hard part
fairly
about
easy
it.
to kill.
That's the hard part about urban deer hunting is
Pattern.
they're working more in the off season to find where the deer are going. Where we're working harder to make sure find out where he's going during season and trying to pattern him on our farm where they find him during the summer and know where he's going to be and get all these trail cam pictures of these deer. Like they're just working more in the off season to where we're just kind of like.
And I to play off of that though, like I spend a ton of time doing deer research.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm all year long. I do not ever stop. I run cameras 24/7. There's not a time that there's not a camera on my farm. Now I switch them around to perennial areas, you know, in that off season, mainly because I want to see what fawns are growing in. And every year we've had a couple set of twins. We've had a set of triplets.
Wow.
It's mainly I do switch cameras to areas that are doe heavy during the off season versus buck heavy because I really don't care what the bucks are doing at that time of year. You can't tell what they look like anyway, unless they have a physical feature or something, you know, like a fucked up ear or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can. But I have a better chance at understanding what my deer do, or I can't really say my deer, but deer that are on the farm that I hunt, my main farm. I have a better like an opportunity to go in there and shoot something big because of what those does do. And understanding what those does do, and that's why I keep cameras out all year. If it's something, even if it's little bitty cameras that you might notice, you don't even have to put a cell cam out if you don't want to. You don't do any of that. Go to a doe heavy area. Study that crap there in the off season. See what does are that made it through. You know, see if you got lots of nannies.
Yeah.
See if you got another big thing for late season. If you want to shoot does, shoot them in the late season.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you got 25 does on the property, right after the rut, don't matter. You know what I mean? You want to. That's in my opinion when you want to thin that doe herd out. Take the 2.5-year-olds, 3.5-year-olds, leave some of the 4.5-year-olds in there, and I think you can really tell a lot from that older doe. You know, she sheds a light. She's the one. She's the teacher. She's everything. Them young bucks know the patterns because of what mama taught them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they grow up to be big bucks, and they come back to those spots. I've got camera footage of it where I can dang near to the day where I've watched these big bucks that grow up on those farms. You know, the first 2 years they don't get away from them does honestly a lot of times, And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, they do. I'm like, no, they don't. I've watched this buck and they're twins. It's that twins. It's a buck and a doe. Okay, I've watched those two hang out together from all the way up till just this last year, pretty much. And his same patterns are that he goes off and ventures, but his same patterns when he hits my farm are the ones that does tell him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, and there's so much about that doe that just people really overlook.
Yep.
You know, I think you talk about what's your favorite aspect of hunting. That's my favorite. Like learning her, I'm telling you, she'll teach you where to be.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's what it takes though to shoot these giants, is finding out where they love to be, which is around them. And it's weird because it's only 4 weeks out of the year that the bucks really love the does in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying they won't congregate together and eat in the same spots, because the food source is a food source in the late season. But if like I said, if you've got 20 does on your property, don't shoot them early season. Wait to that late season. Shoot them in that late season, unless you got one in there that's like, you know, a 3.5-year-old that's just causing all kinds of ruckus. Shoot her. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want her in there because she is going to bump off them bucks just because she's rambunctious. But try to keep them concentrated. You were talking about your farm and you were going, man, why was he there? You know?
Yeah. Well,
I'm telling you, that was just an area where it was concentrated with the right doe population.
Yep.
And that's why he was there. And he knew it. And he might have even been born. That's the crazy thing. He might have been born on your farm.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how we were talking about, you know, oh man, he was killed 2 miles from here. Well, the reason he's probably killed 2 miles from here is because he's probably born on that property. And he's going back to what he knows from his youth.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows that, hey, I was born there. That means there's does there. That, I'm telling you, that doe population is the most serious thing you can hone in on. That period. And if you're not focusing on it, you need to. You really need to, because I think it'll change y'all's game.
Yeah.
I really do. But finish what you were saying with the story.
So we were talking about confidence earlier and all that, and I had somebody a few years ago. He put me up to the challenge of. He didn't really challenge me, so to speak, but he was saying, well, you can't kill a deer off the ground with your bow. You know, you just can't do that. I said, with a blind or without a blind. I said, people do it all the time with a blind. I said, I think it'd be probably a little more difficult to do it without a blind or something. But so I tried it and ended up killing my first archery buck without a blind or nothing.
I'm telling you, Ted did it. You were talking about, you know, back to what you were saying with the best hunting shows out there. Mm-hmm. I think the best out there, period, is not in public.
Yeah.
And the most knowledgeable dudes. I'm telling you right now, if I were to have to pick the best hunter on planet Earth, I'm going to have to go with Zach Farrenball. That is the most beast hunter I've ever seen. Uh-oh, somebody hated it. That is the most beast hunter, personally, I've ever seen. He kills on all aspects.
He does.
Tree, ground, crawling, stalking, creek bed, stuff that you probably never even heard of. He's done it. And he's not killing.
Yeah.
He's not killing 110, 120 inch deer, guys. He's shooting 130, 140, 150, 160 on public land. Can you imagine if he were to come to your farm, whatever hit lister you had on there,
he's gonna shoot it.
He's toast, because that dude's gonna figure out how to kill him.
Yeah.
And you know, that's they are kind of really the essence and really why I started this podcast.
Because it's the new age of hunting. It's the new age of hunting.
They're so immersive.
See,
they're so immersive.
They branched out.
You feel like you're there.
Yeah, they branched out, and you finally can see that. Well, I don't have to go sit in the tree stand like everybody says I have to, you know. And then Hunting Public started doing their thing, and then people like Seek One, they started telling their story, and then you got.
I love it.
Born and raised outdoors, love watching.
I love watching them guys.
Me and my dad can sit down and watch those guys all day. You're just like,
peeps.
Oh my goodness.
Another one, if you haven't watched, my cousin actually is part of them. It's oh my gosh, now I'm drawing a blank. Team Radical. You ever watch them? If you haven't, they're Illinois. Basically,
yeah.
You know,
I
big deer. My cousin hunts with them.
Really?
Yeah. He kills some big ones. Matt Lape. He kills some big ones. I mean some big ones. But they shoot deer like this all the time, like these big ones here. But they're a good one to watch. If you guys, especially for filming, if you guys want to watch how they do a lot of filming, they do a lot of really good filming as far as tree stands. But I mean, dude, the best of the best, period. Point blank for me. I don't think there's a better group out there than the Hunting Public Boys. I think they're some of the best hunters I've ever seen. They adapt. And that's what hunting is. You look at hunting from a primitive standpoint from back in the day. What do you think they did? They adapted from their failure. And that's what I love about the Hunting Publics. They show their failure. They show when they don't have good times. They show why they didn't have a good hunt. They're not just there to show you a 180-inch deer get shot. They're there to show you how to kill a big deer.
Something else I want to pick your brain on. You know, just talk about the olden days of hunting. You think camo matters as much as people say it does?
I think it's very important. And the reason I say that is, and I'm kind of, and it's not just because I work for these guys.
I mean, shit, he's got a Sitka hat on. He's fallen in love with the Sitka brand.
Sitka's good. I'm not gonna knock any brand of clothing that you want to use in the hunt. Mm-hmm. I'm simply gonna say what I say, and we have not had a great tree stand camo. Like I'll say it again.
Yeah.
I mean, you get into when do most people? I asked it right out the gate. When do you guys want to hunt? End of October, 1st of November, right? Mm-hmm. You guys got leaves on your trees? Because I don't. I don't got a single one. I've sat time and time again, especially with the way things are evolving, saddles, all these things. These guys have focused on it, which is this pattern here, which is really it's a wild pattern. But they stood there for 5 years and figured out what tricks a deer's vision. Mm-hmm. Not what looks like it would fit up there.
Yeah, exactly.
What tricks his vision.
Like this stuff is...
It does great.
It does do great. Like I'm like, man, I don't know if I really like that. Well, you deck him out and put him 50 yards in the weeds and stuff, you ain't going to see him. You're not going to see him.
I like the WTF guys. And the reason I say this because you disappear up in a tree with their stuff.
Really?
When you're up in a tree, you cannot see those guys. And they've done different UV patterns where it literally trips them out. Like they cannot see it. I'll show you some pictures and some videos after this. I'll show you some of the gear.
Really? That's awesome.
And they specified an archery. So everything's tailored to an archer. You know, from the sleeves, having the short cuffs and the slim cuffs, to, you know, how it zips, how it holds your heat in. Like everything about it is, it's the stuff. And I told you guys earlier, I'm not a sponsor guy. Like it's just not something that I could care less about it. I really could care less about sponsors. But if I believe in it, I'm gonna use it. I've been waiting forever to have a late season where I don't look like a giant turkey blob or an eagle's nest up in a tree during the late season. I've looked forever. And you talk about guys that kill big deer, a lot of them do kill them early because that's when their camo is the best. A lot of them get busted in that time frame in the tree during that November time frame, that late October, because there ain't no leaves on a tree. Or they're bringing in a tree, a small branch that's making even more noise, and they're posting it or screwing it to the tree when they get up in there to camo them in because they need some kind of foliage. That's silly to me. These saddles, people are coming into these saddles, man. That's the new way of hunting.
Yep.
Saddle hunting.
It's going to take over.
It will. It'll be the Noviks and the Lone Wolf stands, the running gun setups, and the saddles.
See,
they're taking over.
We just now are switching all. Well, most of us, me and Hunter, like we're going to have what 3 or 4 setups this year. One of them's going to be a blind because there ain't no other way to hunt it. I hunt every way. But you know what I mean? Like I hunt it anyway. But we're all hang on now. Let's hang on, and you know.
That's
we haven't quite gotten in the saddle yet, but I'm sure we will at some point.
See, I haven't dabbled in the saddles. I did one time with a buddy, and I enjoyed it. I'm not going to sit there and say I didn't. To me, it was kind of I can't say a loft setup, but it was more than what I'm used to because it's climbing setup. You know what I mean? It's like
it's one of those things where you need to
do it.
Find a tree in your front yard.
Yeah. Yep.
And you just need to constantly go up and down it. So all your like, we were bad about that this year. Like. We told it ourselves multiple times. We need to go out, and my grandpa's front yard got a perfect tree. Go up it, set everything up, take it back down, and keep doing it. And you know, we didn't, and we found ourselves this year. We've hung a set already, and we were struggling hard to work together to help it get in quick because we didn't have to do it quick. It was a couple weeks ago, but there could be some scenarios this year getting in that we may have to do that.
Well, as long as you get in there early, dude.
Yeah.
So, I got like a sneeze coming on or something. I know it's coming. I'm gonna start talking. Anyway, it's getting in there early for for me, and like I said, once again, I always say it, I'm not the greatest hunter in the world. I'm not. It's just not. I'm good. I'm decent. I killed nice deer. I killed nothing like that. But I just said like,
Luck.
he said his luck. But I'm just saying, you know, them getting up in there early, you'd be surprised with the noise you can get away with, as long as they can't see or smell you. Big bucks don't really get too nervous, man, when it comes to sight. It's really smell that screws them up. You know, if you go in there and you bust one out, you just sit down real quick. If he didn't smell you, he's probably like, what was that? You know what I mean? That's always going to be, what was that? It's not going to be, oh, that's human. And you talk about those setups. It's for me, when I go to set up, I'm not necessarily focused on speed, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm focused on one, just kind of being quiet. But my own comfortability. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like if you're not comfortable in what you're doing, there's so much more room for error.
Yeah.
And just go in there. If it takes you if you know it takes you 15, 20 minutes to set a set, then go in 15, 20 minutes before you thought you were going to need to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Then do a set. You guys
For sure.
battery dying over there.
I just always looking at it just to make sure.
Oh, but yeah, just go comfortable. If you know what's 15 minutes when you got to wake up early.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you got a 15-minute set that it takes you that long, go set up for 15. Get up 15 minutes early. Get out there 15 minutes earlier in the stand location and just be good at it. You know, be comfortable.
Be comfortable with your own stuff.
Yep. And like I said, it doesn't take, if it takes you 30 minutes or 10 minutes, just be comfortable with it. However you're going to set up, just be comfortable with that setup. Don't rush. Get in the right position.
Yeah, you don't want to rush. That's the worst thing to do.
It's the worst. And we kind of ran into that with running again last year. I was kind of getting to some spots. I'm like, oh man, I'm late. You know, then I'd have to change, or I wouldn't go as deep as I needed to go because I was running late.
And there's no reason to get hurt either doing it.
No.
There's no reason for that.
Yeah, 100%. And we could go on and on about, like, you know, the perfect setups. I just, you know, you talked about camo, and I'm telling you, these guys are doing something different than, they're not just a camo pattern, dude. Like, they're not focused on looking like a tree. They're focused on, like, literally just screwing that vision up. Like, you know, there's a guy hanging off the side of a tree, and I couldn't see him in this camo, up in the tree. And I was like, what? Because when I looked at it first, a buddy of mine named Hunter Higgins, a young kid, good hunter, and he turned me on to these guys. He's like, dude, I don't know. He's like, just check these things out. And he sent me 7 pictures of him in the snow. He's like, where am I? I couldn't find him. I could not find him. I'm like, I have no idea where you're at, dude. I was like, I've sat here and looked at these pictures for 15 minutes, and I really can't find you. And then he drew a circle around where he was, and I was like, oh my goodness. Like, I really couldn't see him. And you know, you get into those prime hunting seasons, there's no leaves. So what's the point of having a bunch of foliage on your stuff?
Yeah.
Or a ton of different kinds? I mean, like, what's the point?
It sticks out.
I think you look like a bump on a log, or a bump in a tree, or a nest. And you know, when that nest moves, he knows it ain't a nest no more. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But when you move, and he's like, what was that? You know what I mean? Like, wait a
Exactly.
minute. You know, that's what I want. That's what I want to hunt with. Mm-hmm. And I was fortunate enough to reach out to these guys, and we've been working on a lot of stuff together. They're exceptionally great guys. Gear's not overpriced. They only have midweight gear right now. They're pretty much brand new. But if you're out checking out WTF Camo, Whitetail Forensics, I mean, these dudes are on something. And I think they're going to change the game when it comes to hunting big woods. Especially late season, early, even October. You know what I mean?
Really?
When the leaves are falling, you cannot see these guys. And I think it's pretty awesome. But anyway, we've been on what? Now we're on 2 hours. We said we was going to get off here like 30 minutes ago. But anyway, we're gonna get off here because I don't even know if I put on the food to smoke. I think I turned the smoker on and then didn't put chicken on, so we might have to wait a little bit for some food because I'm slow like that sometimes. But I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. We'll be having you guys back up. I'm sure if you guys get a chance to make it up this Midwest Classic, do so.
Yep.
I'm going to have a dinner here with some people, hanging out, we're going to talk stories and big bucks afterwards and what we kill and what we don't kill and how close we got. I hear some fibbers. Talk about big deer out here. Now, there a bunch of good guys going to be coming up for it. I think Dalton Wood's going to be coming up with Rack Daddy Mail's going to be up here. WGO might be coming up. I'm not sure. He hasn't really reached out and said yes or no. I do know Andy Hicks and them are coming up from Ultimate Whitetail Bow Hunter, and I think I've got 3 or 4 others. I'm sorry if I'm forgetting you guys, but I've got 3 or 4 other good groups coming up. We're all just going to go have fun on this lake and hunt this Midwest class. So I think it'd be a good one for everybody to kind of get together. And I'm going to have a bonfire, smoke a bunch of food, cook here, because we're close to the lake. We're 4 minutes from the lake. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'm glad you guys came up here. Thank you for coming and seeing me.
We appreciate it.
And next time, hopefully, not this next time, but the time after, I'm going to be having a new vision for the bucks that come in. So I bought a 360 camera, and I'm going to mount it above the deer so that during the show, people can look at the buck as if they were holding it.
That'd be
And
cool.
I'm working on it. I hope nobody steals it before I get it done. But I'm working on it, and I think it's going to be a pretty cool outlook to kind of see some of
It'd
those
be
deer
really cool,
that people don't normally get to see. But anyway, y'all take care, and as always, stay awesome. And we're done. Cool. I don't think any of us checked to see if any of the audio was good, but I think it was. It looked like it was pretty solid.